I want to talk about you as an entrepreneur, because that's where I think you have differentiated yourself from most, from all MLB players and most professional athletes for that matter. Where did you sort of get a knack and find some love in the business side of things and turning yourself into a brand? Because as you know, us as fans of baseball, we know that that's not a very common thing.
Hmm.
Baseball players like to be further back as opposed to athletes in other sports. Where did you kind of get that knack?
So it started with baseball from a young age. Like I was talking about, my process is I evaluate where I am, I look at where I want to go, and then I develop a process. Well, part of developing that process is you have to see the inefficiencies in what you currently do. You have to see the things that are lacking, I guess. Um, and so I got really good from a young age. I built this ability to look and see inefficiencies in systems. So I see inefficiencies in my training. I see inefficiencies in my performance. I see inefficiencies. Then it started being, I see inefficiencies in players that I'm around and things that they could do better. Then I see inefficiencies in team structures, and I see inefficiencies in industries. And so as I learned more about these things, as I went through school, I really, when I got out of school, when I got out of college, um, I started seeing inefficiencies in a bunch of different things. I saw an inefficiency in myself in like 2014, where all I did was baseball, and I would drive myself nuts. And I mentally, it was like kind of spiraling downwards. So I was like, okay, I need a hobby to go do that. And so I got really into drones, and that's all I did off the
Nice.
field is drones. Well, at some point, I figured out enough about drones at the current time that I was like, okay, I see the end here. I know everything I need to know. If I want to be really good at drones, then all I have to do is practice like infinite hours. And I just wasn't willing to practice the infinite hours because I'd figured out the intellectual puzzle. And so I'd seen inefficiencies in the baseball industry for a while because I'm in it, the industry as a whole, how players are represented, how players are marketed, stuff like that. And so I kind of knew that I wanted to get into business. One of my goals is to become a billionaire, and I know I'm not going to do that just by playing baseball. And I've always had a mind for it. So, so I knew I wanted to get into business for a couple, 2, 3 years, probably back in 2015 or 2016, but I didn't know what. I'm like, what am I going to sell? I don't know enough about it. I don't know what business I'm going to run. Well, in 2018 at the All-Star game, Rob Manfred made a comment about Mike Trout, and basically saying that MLB would like to market its stars more, but it's on the player to be marketable. It's on the player to engage. Um, and it didn't sit too well with me, emotionally at the time, because like, here's the commissioner of our game attacking the players for not doing enough. It's like, we are the product on the field. We have a full-time job to go out and play
Right.
for 6 months. Plus, if you make playoffs, it's 7, plus spring training 6 weeks. So you're looking at 8.5 months out of the year where it's literally every single day. Even off days during the year, you're traveling. You're, very rare you get an off day at home. Um, and so it didn't sit well with me. I was like, okay, I see there's a problem here. Like, baseball's losing popularity among the younger generations, and Rob Manfred doesn't think the players are engaging enough, but no one's teaching the players how to engage.
Right.
No one's then taking the players and engaging with the fans in a way that draws them in and makes that connection. I was like, okay, I can do that. And my best friend Taiki, I'd met him at a training facility called Driveline that I go to, and he started as a trainee, then he was a trainer, and then he kind of handled all their video and marketing side of things for a while, just because he was passionate about video. He had recently, just like 6 months before that, left to go freelance because he wanted to get more into storytelling and develop his filmmaking career. And so we both share a passion for baseball and decided to start Momentum. And spent 6 to 8 months like trying to figure out what we were going to do and set the structure and whatever, and then launched in early, I think January 2019. And that was really the first kind of foray, and I loved it. I loved like the puzzle of it, trying to figure out, where do we go next? What's the next move? How do we organize our people? How do we stuff like that? And then so I just looked at the other inefficiencies that go along with that, and I said, oh, okay, well, if you have content, that's great, but then how do you make the content the right content? Well, that's brand building, right? So I'm going to start like a branding, educational, like management company, and so that's in the works. And then it's, well, what do you do with once you're branded, like how do you monetize that? And it was like, that was the next step. And then I was like, okay, well now you have this brand that like should be valuable to teams. How do you utilize that to like make yourself more valuable in contract negotiations? How do players get more value out of the contract negotiations? And at about that time, my agent now, Rachel Luba, had like launched her own agency and had this pitch of like, look, we're going to use social media, we're going to charge less, we're going to it's going to be more customizable, all this stuff. And I was like, wow, that makes sense.
Right.
It fits perfectly with what I'm doing. And then so that was the next thing. And then it just the snowball gets rolling, and I'm like, oh, well, we could do this and we could do that. Now I'm just so in it. I'm just like, I see all the different connections. And it's like a big chessboard,
No.
or like 4 chessboards where you're playing, cross board and the whole deal. So